Alright, so let's continue. Now in this part, we will be creating a new API endpoint, which will take care of confirming the order and doing the respective things. So let's actually do that. Let's head back to the editor, and within the API directory in the pages that we have, let's create a new file by the name of confirm order. One second, confirm order. So similarly, we have to export default a function, the handler function, and it's going to receive the request and the response as the arguments. So over here, the thing is, we will be doing a bit similar thing as what we did in the new order, where we checked the request method to be of post, but this time it's going to be of get. So let's do that right over here, and we can actually copy the same thing in such a way, and let's just check for the get method in such a way. So now that this thing is done, let's actually return something just to be sure that it's working, and we need to visit this particular endpoint, confirm-order. So that's gonna be confirm order in such a way. So as you can see that this thing is working. Now the thing is that the way that this endpoint is going to work, that it will be called with a query parameter in such a way, and over here we're going to be adding like an order ID query, the parameter, which would be the ID, the unique ID. In this context is going to be the key of the document that we added in the Deta Database. So let's just actually add something over here just to kind of extract this ID, just to see how we can extract this ID. It's pretty simple. Over here in the request that we have, let's do one thing. Let's return back a JSON, and let's return request.query. So this query that we have, it will contain all the query parameters of the which are within the URL. So now if we actually refresh, we will find that it's returning back an object which has the order ID, the same way that we added in the URL, and there we have the ID. So that's what we need to do. Now practically the way it's going to work is that the user will receive an endpoint with the ID as the value of this particular query parameter. So it's going to be something like this. So we will be extracting the particular ID from the URL, and we're going to look for the same thing in the database that we have. So let's actually do that right now. Before we actually do anything, let's quickly destructure this particular query parameter from the request.query. The one that we need is order ID in such a way. We are basically destructuring this out of the request.query. So now let's list down all the different things that we have to do. So firstly, we need to fetch the document from the database, right? We need to get the document, and even at this point we have to check one thing, whether this ID, whether a document with this ID even exists. So it's going to be a conditional check. Let's write it over here. It's going to be a conditional check, because if the document doesn't exist, then the user should know that whether the ID is invalid or the document is already not invalid. Well, actually it would be whether the link expired, first case, or the order was already confirmed, something like that. You do get the point. So we will be doing this thing. Then assuming that the document does exist and we have it back, then we will be adding the entry in the Google Sheet, right? We need to add it over here in such a way, like it's going to be right over here. So that's the second thing. Then the third one would be to send a push notification in Slack. And lastly, we need to delete the document. Well, actually we can do this, right after checking the document, because we will be having the document like we will be having the data right over here, because once we fetch it, we will be having it regardless whether we delete it from the database. So we can delete it upfront, so that we don't leave any scope of the link being clicked multiple times. So yeah, we can do this thing, but we will be doing this later. Like, we will be deleting the document later. Let's just finish off with the rest of the things, and in the end we're gonna push this operation right after we fetch the document. So for the timing, let's put it at the last, and now let's actually fetch the document. So we'll have to do a similar thing as what we did over here, where we are getting the document in such a way. So let's just copy the same thing. Now obviously we have the option of pushing this part into a utility function, like creating a separate file, but as it is just 2 lines and it's not that much, I'm just gonna copy it right over here. So yeah, we do have this thing, then we have the database, and the database remains the same. So now that we have it, let's actually push it over here. So now that we have the database, we can get the document out of it. And how do we do that? By making use of the get method. So this thing, it takes an argument, and the argument is the key. So let's do it right over here. So we're gonna get the order by using db.get, and over here we're gonna pass down the order ID, the one that we have in the query parameter. So for that, let's pass it in such a way, and as it is going to be it's going to be an async function, let's await it right over here, which means we should be adding async as well. Oops, not over here. It's gonna be before function. Sometimes you do get confused with little things. Anyway, so now that we get, after we get the order back, now what should we do? Let's actually first test this thing out. Return res.json. We're gonna return back the order with the respective order ID. So now over here, let's actually do one thing. If we have order, then we want to proceed with the rest of the things, right? Because if we do not have the order, then it doesn't even make sense to do anything. So for the time being, let's just return back a similar error, like in a similar way, and we're gonna be adding that order whether link expired or the order is confirmed. Alright, so that's what we are gonna do. So over here, let's head back, and now I'm just gonna refresh. Let's just see whether it gives us back the document. Data is not defined, pretty obvious. We have to import it first. Let's do that right at the top, and there we have the document. So that is perfect. So now that we have this thing, we can proceed. Let's actually look for a document with an ID which is not valid, and that is beautiful. So this means that this entire logic is working. And now we can actually work on the part of adding this entry to the Google Sheet. So for this thing, let's actually continue with it in the next part. And again, thank you for watching.